Arlen Nixon here. We had a few technical difficulties, but we seem to have gotten through them. I'm here with Laith Marouf. Let's talk. For those of you who are wondering about Rumble, I will upload that later. Apparently, we've had some technical difficulties. Now, let me just throw this out. Normally, I would be like, these computers, but I watched a live stream by Max Blumenthal, the Gray Zone, last night about the Trump assassination attempt. And the first thing Max said was, I had problem with StreamYard, so it took me a long time for a couple of hours to get it up. So in light of what's happening with the attacks on the U.S. imperialist attacks on RT and alternative media. I don't know if you've heard of Africa Stream. Apparently, they're going after that, throwing them off of stuff, threatening it right now. They're desperate. They're a wounded and desperate beast. And, this is, I think, what we're going to have to deal with. So I'll upload this video later to Rumble. So sorry about all the rumblers. But at any rate, let's go with Laith Marouf. For starters, freepalestine.video is Laith's website. It's very important that you go to freepalestine.video, that you donate to keep it going, and that you share freepalestine.video on all of your social media platforms, and make sure you put a little post to people to donate. And this is important. You can become a monthly donor. Go on there. You can donate just once if you can afford it. But if you can afford it, make sure you become a monthly donor. They do a lot of great English language work. And of course, they're under attack, as are we all. Let's start, Laith. We've got a lot going on in the Middle East. We'll start with this. Ansar Allah recently, I read that they fired a missile that hit Tel Aviv, that God knows it covered like 2,000 miles in like 11 minutes. It was like averaged 11,000 miles an hour or some ungodly number. So that has to be a message is another message to Israel. If Ansar Allah can fire one and hit Tel Aviv, one missile, and there was nothing you could do to stop it, because we already know that the U.S. empire has no their air defense doesn't seem to be worth a crap anyway. But what they have no way to stop hypersonic missiles. You really don't want to tangle. If they've got it, you don't want any parts of Hezbollah, of Iran, if they've got it, don't the Iraqis have it? Don't they all have it? So it seems to me a powerful, might I add, the Yemen, they've been shooting down MQ-9 Reaper drones on pretty much damn near a weekly basis. Things ain't looking good for them. Your thoughts, Laith?
Oh, yes. Number one, this was a hypersonic missile traveling at Mach 10. This is the first proven use of a hypersonic missile at speeds of Mach 10 in any battlefield. The Russians already used a hypersonic missile in Ukraine, but it was a Mach 8. So here is the supposedly poorest nation on earth, not only going into the ring against the whole empire and defeating the navies of the West, but also right now setting the stage for all nations on earth to use hypersonic missiles. This is technology that the US itself has not been able to perfect, and up until now the US military does not have hypersonic missiles. So you could imagine what it does mean to that Yemen did this, not only for the axis of resistance, but all freedom-seeking nations on this planet. The other thing is that according to the Israelis and all of the empire, all of the air defenses and radars in the NATO ships in the Red Sea, on the grounds of Saudi, Sudan, Egypt, Jordan, and Israel itself, the Zionist colony, did not see the hypersonic missile coming. Only after the fact that it was on top of Tel Aviv and people were seeing it by their eyes did the Israeli air defenses get activated. And they fired 15 missiles at it from different air defense systems, the small, medium, and large. And all of these missiles missed it and couldn't shoot it down. Usually, air defense systems shoot 2 missiles at one incoming, but they fired 15 and couldn't hit it. This means that Yemen's hypersonic missiles are unstoppable. And, this was a warning shot. Sayyid Abdul Malik al-Houthi spoke the day of this firing of this hypersonic missile, and it coincided with the Mawlid, the birth day of Prophet Muhammad. So the Yemeni people were celebrating in the streets. 2 million Yemenis were out on the streets, and they got this news from their leader. Joyfully, it was a gift basically to all Arabs and Muslims in this world to show this happening on Muhammad's birthday. And finally, I would say, when you noted there that the axis of resistance, other parts of the axis of resistance must for sure have this technology. And that this missile, as you said, took, according to the Israelis, 10 minutes, according to the Yemenis, 6 minutes to reach from Yemen to Palestine. You could imagine if a hypersonic missile was fired from Lebanon. It will be seconds before it hit its target. It means none of the air defenses in Israel will be even activated or before it hit its target. So this is because Sayyid Abdul Malik al-Houthi also said this is the beginning of stage 5 in this war. This means now, and we will be seeing new surprises coming out from Yemen. Now I think we were in the midst of this stage 5. We will see things that we haven't seen before, and the end of the Zionist colony is only inching closer and closer.
Yeah, the thing about it is you look at that, and these things seem to me that yes, they're hitting targets, but that's the least of it. They're sending messages, as Israel says, we want to, they seem to really be trying to drag the U.S. into it, to expand this thing out into a regional conflict, etc. I think it's a message to both the U.S. and Israel to let them know when you only fire one missile, what you're saying is, I don't really want this fight. I would prefer not to do it. That's not what I'm trying to do. However, if it happens, if these are U.S. air defenses and there's U.S. bases scattered all over the Middle East. So the message is, if this starts, the U.S. bases are just as vulnerable. They're vaporized. You know what I mean? Any base what Yemen and the entire axis of resistance is saying is, if something happens, any base we want to destroy, we can destroy, and there's nothing you can do about it. Israel, if you start this war from day one, it's going to be over for you, because we're going to end up, we have the capacity to end all of your bases. They've flown drones over, and they've shown and pinpointed all of the spots, all of the, the military industrial complex. So Hezbollah has shown we know where everything is. It's already targeted. It's already locked in. And now they show, and we don't even worry about your Iron Dome, because if it starts, there's nothing you can do. So it's, to me, a powerful message to both the U.S. and Israel that if this starts, on day one, you lose. You don't want this. And I think that's what it is. It is, how about this? It is a truly, as paradoxical as this is, it's a message of peace. In the same way, I'll end by saying this, that a rattlesnake doesn't rattle because he wants to bite you. He rattles because you're getting close and he feels threatened, and he's letting you know, I can bite you if I want to, but I don't want any trouble. Just go back in your own direction and nobody will have any problems. When a rattlesnake rattles, it's a message of peace. I don't want conflict. That's how I read this.
Oh, yes, you are definitely right. And I think the biggest worry now that the Americans must be having is beyond their bases on the ground. It's their aircraft carriers. It means that Ansarullah Yemen, if they wanted to sink an aircraft carrier, they would have done it months ago with one of these hypersonic missiles. There's nothing that can stop it. One of them is enough to sink $1 billion aircraft carrier. And as we saw, of course, you mentioned it in your beginning of this question, Yemen also shot down the 10th MQ-9 drone since the beginning of this war, American drone over Yemen. That's like $330 million of drones shot down by Yemen. And, it's clear that Yemen, with all the poverty that is there, has been, I think, the most effective of all of the axis of resistance components, have put a price tag on the Zionist and the empire as a whole that no other component of the axis of resistance has put. This is their ability to cut down all the trade or naval trade to the Zionist colony, their ability to face off with the American Navy, their ability to shoot down all these drones, their ability to fire from where they are on the Zionist colony and with this hypersonic missile, the ramifications of every little thing that Yemen does reverberates across the planet. Not even the daily bombardment by Hezbollah is doing that. You see, maybe the daily bombardment by Hezbollah is affecting inside the Zionist colony. It's the colonists in the north and the tourism and so on. But it's not affecting things all the way in the US. The missiles and actions of Yemen are shaking the whole planet. And I think they're setting an example for any nation on this earth that you can follow suit. It doesn't matter how poor you are. If you want to get rid of imperialism and colonialism and kick out the West off your land and regain your sovereignty and control of your resources and build your nation, you can do it. Just follow the suit of Yemen.
The other thing I think is this. There's the humiliation. There's a level of humiliation to the U.S. empire, to the people in power. Look, if I face a guy my own size and we fight and I win or he wins or whatever, people say, well, Garland got in a fight and, he won or lost. No big deal. I fight some guy my own size. If I fight some woman who's 4'11" and weighs 98 pounds and she's going toe to toe with me, she doesn't have to win. Toe to toe with me. She's landing blows. I'm landing blows. It's a humiliation. Everybody will say, for God's sake, Garland, she's a woman. She's 4'11". She weighs 98 pounds. And man, you're coming out of this thing black and blue and you want to walk away. There's the humiliation. The U.S. empire, 900 bases around the world, trillions of dollars spent, the so-called most powerful military in the world, and a country who's mostly doesn't even have electricity, that's very, very poor, is, I would say, doing better than going toe to toe with the U.S. empire. The U.S. empire is punch drunk at this point. They don't know what to do. And let me add this. No matter what the U.S. does, no matter what they hit them with, the Israelis just smile. It's like somebody punches somebody with everything they can, wham, and the person just smiles and says, is that all you got? That's the best you can do. There's a level of humiliation here. Your thoughts?
Yes. And you reminded me of, remember Tyson when he came back out of jail and he bit the guy in the ear when he was losing? Okay, this is what the US and the Zionists are doing every time they fight with Yemen. They're like, oh, well, I can't really fight you. I'm just going to bomb some infrastructure or kill some civilians. That's biting somebody in the ear because you couldn't punch them. This is how it is, how humiliating it is. And definitely, the more the U.S. continues to do anything that the Zionists want at any cost, the more they're humiliating themselves, the more they're weakening their position on other parts of this planet and other conflict zones. Because, if Russia is sitting now and being threatened by NATO members, Well, they're looking at Yemen taking on all of NATO and all of the power of NATO and staying, on par, right? So Russia, of course, has nothing to worry about right now. Russia can be even more adventurous right now with its actions in Ukraine, because if Yemen can do this, definitely Russia can do even better. And again, this is a message not only to Russia and China. What Yemen is doing, it's a message to every sovereignty-seeking people on this planet. You can do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because um, the U.S. rules by fear. Empires rule by fear. We'll dominate you, we'll destroy you, we'll crush you, etc. And now what we're seeing is people are realizing, that you're not as tough as I thought you were. You're claiming that you're tough. You're in Ukraine struggling with Russia, and all your best equipment is burning on the steppes of Russia, and the most powerful proxy army you've ever put together is getting wiped out. In the Middle East, you're going toe to everybody's fight. Hezbollah, you can't deal with them. You can't. Your ships are running. Every chance they get, they got to run away from Houthi missiles. There is a worldwide humiliation, and the idea that the U.S. could tangle. They lost to the Taliban, and now they're completely surrounded. Let me ask you this: I read an article that said the Iraqis are picking up steam on ejecting the U.S., that the Iraqis are now take another angle, that they've said, look, we've defeated ISIS. Thanks for helping us defeat ISIS. But now that they're defeated, we don't need you anymore. It seems to me, whether it works or not, here's my point. It seems to me that the pressure is getting on governments that are being dominated by the U.S. because the U.S. is like, we're stealing your money. We're doing everything. You got to do what we're saying, what we tell you to do, and let us stay there. It seems to me the pressure on the governments that are either vassals or are being, dominated and controlled and threatened by the U.S. into doing what they want. The pressure is getting so high that these governments aren't going to be able to hang on and go along with the U.S. empire much longer. And then starting with Iraq.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The reason that the resistance in Iraq is saying they're going to be back to confronting the American occupation forces is because they gave a chance to the government of Iraq to negotiate an exit of the American occupation forces. And last week, after our interview, the American government said openly that the only offer on the table to the Iraqi government is that the U.S. will leave in 2027. So we're going to be occupied. Yes,
which means never. It means never.
Exactly. So that was the end of it. And not only that they also said that even after they leave, that all the oil and gas money of Iraq will continue to be controlled by the U.S., that the Iraqis will continue to need to ask for U.S. permission to use their own money. So this is basically telling everybody, as you said, we're not going to leave and we're going to continue looting your resources. So this is why now that it's clear that the Iraqi government is unable to get anything from the Americans, that now the Iraqi resistance has to go back to direct confrontation with the American presence. And as this battlefront expands, look, one thing that we have to realize is that the axis of resistance, all of it together, have a coordination center, command and control, and nothing's gonna be chaotic and somebody attacks here or there, because every attack from a different battlefield in this war affects the others. So for instance, when we talk about Syria, people are like, why isn't Syria firing back? Why isn't Syria firing back at the Israelis every time they attack them? Well, it's clear because Israel, as the axis of resistance, has decided that Syria needs to stay as the safe transit route for equipment and fighters in the region. And if Syria is on fire, then the supply line to Lebanon and to Gaza is cut off. So similarly, when we talk about Iraq, well, do you really want to right now inflame Iraq suddenly with a war between the Iraqi resistance and the American troops? That's going to also cut the supply route. So the actions of the Iraqi resistance will be calculated as not only their effect on the American presence in Iraq, but their effect on the whole plan that the axis of resistance is working on.
It seems to me in the same way that, people were in Ukraine. When are the Russians going to do this big offensive? When are the Russians going to come? And what the Russians did was they just kept pressure. You know what I mean? They keep pressure everywhere. Pressure, no, no respite, no time to rest, no nothing. They're just going to they don't attack you in a big frontal attack. They just keep pounding away, pounding in all directions, and the pressure wears them down. It seems to me that there's a similar thing going on with the resistance, that the Yemen is just keep punching you here and there, sending messages, sending missiles. That, as you said, every now and then the Iraqis, resistance will send a missile or two in to strike a port or something. Every now and then, pressure's coming from various directions. Hezbollah keeps hitting targets, but it seems to me Hezbollah is hitting a lot of strategic targets to weaken their capabilities. They're hitting air defense. They're hitting, intelligence. Supposedly they knocked the crap out of that Unit 8200 or whatever that, from my understanding, is they lost a lot of people and they've been severely crippled. But these are tactical and strategic moves, because where you may say, well, they hit Israeli intelligence to get revenge, in reality, they crippled the Israeli intelligence, which gives them another. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yes, you're 100% correct there. In fact, look, the biggest difference between how Russia and the axis of resistance behave in comparison to the West is that Russia and the axis of resistance are defending themselves. They are not out there to attack and kill and dominate other nations and steal their land and resources. That is the business of the West. And this is why the West, when they go into a war, they do the shock and awe and the mass extinction of peoples and mass genocide all at once, because that they are in an offensive posture. Russia is not occupying parts of Ukraine because it wants more territory or it wants more resources. It's protecting the Russian ethnic cultural group within Ukraine that were suffering a genocide. Similarly, all of the axis of resistance is not attacking the Zionist colony because they love killing or they want to steal something from the Zionists. They're trying to defend a people that are being genocided, and therefore they don't have the interest in their mind to also commit genocide or to expand the genocide zone further, right? Like they are very humanist and calculated in what they're doing. Russia can do a shock and awe like the US did if it wants to. It can kill 1.5 million Ukrainians like the US did in Iraq in a second if it wants to. But that's not the intention. What did the US gain from what it did in Iraq beyond looting the resources? The only thing that it came out with is 100 years of hate that's going to stay in the Iraqi people and all of the Arabic people and all of the Muslim people against the United States. The 100 years will not delete this, crime that the U.S. committed. Russia, if it stops the war right now, it will, people will not hold on a grudge against Russia because it conducted itself in the most possible, least genocidal way you can in a war. And similarly, that's what we see. Hezbollah can, if it wants to, mass bombard colonies in the north of Palestine, like the Israelis are doing to the villages in South Lebanon, and there would have been hundreds of thousands of dead colonists. But that's not the intention. The intention is to stop the genocide in Gaza. That's why everything is calculated in such ways. And this is what is actually winning the hearts and minds of the planet. There is no nation on this earth. I would even argue that the majority of people in Europe, the majority of people in Canada, the US, Australia, they all are seeing with their eyes what me and you are talking about. Everybody in this planet wants this war to end. Everybody is on the side, the majority of human beings are on the side of the axis of resistance. And the axis of resistance would not have had this mass human support on this planet if it conducted itself the same way the West conducts itself in war.
Yeah, right now I was looking for the article, but there are numerous articles that show that the Democrats are in trouble, that Kamala Harris is in trouble. I say Kamala Harris, she's nothing but a conduit for power, as if she really exists, you know. But that right now, Jill Stein, her vice president is a VP candidate. Butch Ware is a Muslim, a Black American, a brilliant man, and they're starting to really blow out Kamala Harris in the swing states. That all the Muslim voters are saying we're going to vote for Jill Stein, which is interesting, which shows something else. They try to say, well, they hate Jews. They just hate Jews. She's Jewish. All the Muslim voters are saying we're going to vote for the Jewish woman who says that Muslims are backwards, you know, they don't not for women's rights or whatever. They're all saying we're going to vote for the Jewish woman because she stands with Palestine. And what happens is the Jewish woman who chooses a Black man who's a Muslim. So for all of the crap that the Democrats push about diversity and all of that kind of stuff, you've got a Jewish woman and a Black Muslim scholar who's running, and they're attacking them. They're suing them. They're trying to get them thrown off the ballot, and they're losing to them. And the Muslim voters, it would be interesting if the Muslim voters are the ones that swing the campaign away from the Democratic Party, because that's the way it seems like it's starting to go now.
You see, the big difference is the two major parties in the West, in the US, the Democrats and the Republicans, use race baiting as their main political policy. One wants to create these fake coconuts, let's say, like Kamala Harris or Obama, who project Blackness but are actually supportive of imperialism, genocide, colonialism. And the Republicans portray this white macho situation that is, and both of them are manipulating those communities that they supposedly claim to represent. Trump and the Republicans do not represent the vast majority of those who we will identify as white people. The majority of quote unquote white people are decent human beings, like the majority of all human beings, right? And we see the Republicans using, for instance, this Vance was talking about animals being eaten, I don't know, by immigrants in Ohio or something like that.
Haitian immigrants or something they're going after, right?
Okay, and similarly, you see how these Democrats use this, race as a way to gain votes. But on the other hand, you look at how Jill Stein and her vice president Weir are conducting themselves. They don't talk about race as as a way to attract people to vote for them. They are talking about policies. They are talking about anti-genocide. They're talking about healthcare. They're talking about education. No matter what background you're from, those are the real issues that all our communities, no matter what our ethnic or religious or linguistic background is, want to deal with. You see, and that is, it shows you that if these parties like the Green Party are given a chance on a national platform, majority of human beings in the United States that are decent would vote for them, because nobody wants a genocide in their name. Nobody wants to attack white people or Black people or Arabs or Muslims or Jews, whatever it is. Those are all things that are in the interest of the elite that manipulate and divide the population. Okay, just like here in Lebanon, there's 18 sects, and all these different parties claim that they represent this whatever sect, and in reality they're manipulating them. But when the resistance like Hezbollah, stands up and defends all the rights of all Lebanese and the sovereignty of Lebanon, the 18 sects, all of them line up behind Hezbollah. You see? So the American people are hungry for true representation of their will, of their goodwill of the people of the United States.
And what we're seeing is the people in the Democratic Party are saying we're unhappy with this thing. We don't like the genocide. We don't like all of these wars, period. The Democrats have been in for 4 years. All they've done is war, war, war. We don't like it. And the Democratic Party is basically saying, nah, we'll just pretend they're just pretending that the people in their party aren't saying what they're saying. And they're like, oh, we're afraid of Trump. We're scared. Trump can't possibly win. And the Democratic and people are saying, well, if you don't want Trump, you need to do something to stop the genocide. And basically what the Democratic Party is saying is we'd rather lose to Trump. We'd rather go out of power. We'd rather fall apart and give everything up than turn our backs on the Zionists.
Oh yes, just like what's his name, Starmer did in the UK.
Oh yeah, Keir Starmer.
Corbyn. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they burnt down the chance of Corbyn winning the election. They burned down their whole party rather than allow anti-Zionists to take control of the party and maybe the prime ministership of the. And this is and yesterday I think Keir Starmer did a speech in front of the Zionists and published an article in one of the Zionist magazines, newspapers in the UK, saying that my party, he called it my party, will forever be Zionists, will support Israel no matter what. So he's saying it's his party, number one. And that's saying to all the voters that identified as Labour Party members, screw you, I don't even care about you. So this shows you how little care these elite have to the will of their own people and to even the reputation of their own people. The reputation of the whole West has been dragged in the dumpster, in the sewers over the last 11 months, and all for the glory of Zionism. And they're going to destroy their whole economies and destroy all the trade, and nobody's going to be watching Western movies or listening to the music because we're all getting disgusted. People used to love watching American propaganda. Now people are like, I don't want to see another American TV show that's gonna put something. It's a total loss. And I think the population in the West, our listeners, our viewers here, the great American people, the great people in Europe, they have a need to move and take back their countries because they will find themselves at the bottom of the history garbage can if they don't.
It's interesting. I want to throw something at you and get your thoughts. It's interesting you mentioned TV and movies in the U.S. because I find myself, I used to watch TV, movie, all the stuff all the time, right? But now there's something very disgusting to me. And I don't know if it makes sense, but I'll get your opinion on it. So I watch these TV shows, movies, sports, and they're all so diverse now, right? Oh, so I watch, here's a movie. They got a Black woman, a Latino woman, a gay couple, an overweight person, a trans person, you know what I mean? And so there's 5 people in so-called diversity. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, nobody does that. Who says, hey man, let's get together and go to the mall. Wait a minute. We don't have a Latino guy. Better call Pedro. Oh, do we have any gay people? Well, I got a gay friend. I'll call them. Nobody puts together this diverse group of people to go hang out at the park, right? And I look at it and I'm like, it's disgusting for this reason. You're in Hollywood, in the movies, in the commercials, in the TV. It's virtue signaling. They're so trying to show we're the good guys. We're tolerant. I hate that term.
Yeah.
Tolerant of everyone. We bring everyone together of all races because we're so lovely and we're so virtuous that we care about all races. And I look at that in Hollywood and I'm like, these bastards in Hollywood are some of the biggest supporters of genocide on earth. These bastards in Hollywood, they bring in these Azov battalion Nazis who are goose stepping around covered in Hitler tattoos, and they literally pin medals on these people, right? So it's disgusting because I'm looking at a commercial or a TV from Hollywood with the virtue signaling of all of these different genders or whatever the hell they go with, right? To show how wonderful they are. But beneath the surface, they are supporting the most evil human being bastards that this planet has ever produced. And it's like, I can't even watch that stuff anymore. I watch YouTube. I watch a football game or a sports, basketball game or something. I can watch that. But I don't even want to see the gender neutral, diversified commercials where they got 10 different people for a friggin' chewing gum advertisement.
Yeah, look, in my time in the US, and I am married to an American woman. She's from Louisiana. My kids are American, just so people don't think that I'm a total outsider. But in my time in the US, it's clear that there is separateness. There's, you go into a restaurant and there is tables that are totally black or totally Latino and totally white, and then maybe there's one table that is mixed, right? So there is a kind of a separateness. It's not a fully integrated society. It's not like every white person has black friends or every black person has white friends or whatever it is, right? Or so to usually art is there to reflect reality, right? And only when we're talking about futuristic things, we can sci-fi. Then yeah, okay, you can imagine some future you want, right? And so to see them forcing these things on, it is, even if you are very progressive, even if you want integration of everybody, even if you want a space for every color and gender and whatever, it does feel forced. It ruins the scripting. It makes it become sci-fi instead of fiction, or it becomes sci-fi. It's not real. So that is where the problem lies. Yesterday I was watching this new show. I sometimes punish myself watching these things, and it is a show called How to Die Alone. And it's set a black woman in the airport in New York or something. She works at baggage or stuff like this. Point is, by the end of episode 2, they somehow inserted an attack on Jill Stein. I was like, God damn. It was like, oh, Jill Stein. Her brother is saying he's going to vote for Jill Stein, and she attacks her brother, saying, well, last time she did that, Jill Stein ruined it for Hillary, basically. And I'm like, God damn, this order came from the producers, the financiers of this show. The show was already being filmed, right? And somebody said, drop me right now a scene that attacks Jill Stein before it goes out on the internet, this show. They probably had to reshoot that one scene to include that attack on Jill Stein.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how problematic and controlled all productions coming out of Hollywood are. And it sickened me, because the show was, in general, was okay. Yes, there was too much diversity that is fabricated. But it was okay. I was laughing. It was comedy. But then this happened, and I was like, God damn, why you ruined my moment of trying to escape reality by bringing me back to think about the propaganda machine that is behind this show. I just couldn't anymore continue it,
Yeah, that's it. And I think people are, Yeah, it's starting to wake up to that. Now let's talk about one last thing. Only got a couple minutes because I got a lot to do for work today. But so recently, the U.S. comes out and says, "Oh, RT." Now, this has been going on for a while. Here's what people don't realize: if you go search RT Latin America, RT Africa, you'll see that for at least the last year to year and a half, the U.S. has been saying, basically, the people in Latin America and Africa are watching too much RT, and it's affecting them. In other words, they don't have a right. These poor idiot people, they don't have a right to think on their own, and they're being manipulated by RT, right? So the U.S. has been saying, "Oh, RT's being watched too much." And again, how colonial is that? That the U.S. has a right to tell the Africans, the Middle Eastern, the Muslim community, the Latin American community, what they should watch because it's affecting them in a way that the U.S. empire doesn't. So now the U.S., I heard they're going after RT, all of that stuff. They're also going after like Africa Stream. They're taking them down. They're throwing people off Meta. They're throwing people off Instagram. And it is, to me, they think it's a sign of power. Ha ha, we're going to take everybody out. To me, it's two things. It is a sign of desperation because they're losing their two proxy wars. And additionally, it will give rise to other platforms. As people in other parts of the world look at it and say, well, wait a minute, they're taking out their big platforms. If we put forth platforms and we don't do it, and we're already prepared to tell them no, everybody will stream the app. They're spelling doom in the long run for Twitter and Meta and all of that, because there will be new platforms. At any rate, your thoughts on the attack on alternative media?
I was, expecting them to attack RT and Sputnik and so on. And by the way, I am really worried for you and for all our comrades and colleagues that work for Sputnik and so on, given what has happened to Richard Medhurst and others in the UK. And I personally, I'm not going back to Canada anytime soon because I am scared that
Oh,
they
you'll
will
be
nab
arrested
me.
on the spot.
Yes. So, but what shocked me was them attacking African Stream. These are friends of mine that I've known for decades. Already. These are honorable locals from Africa. There is no money coming out from Russia or anything for them, and they're doing great. They're doing amazing Pan-African work with their brothers in the Caribbean and the West. And to see them attack African Stream, I was like, wow. Then African Stream really means it's hurting the U.S. Propaganda machine in the African communities and their diasporas. And it means that other groups as small as African Stream, including our group, Free Palestine TV, will be targeted. Look, we just launched reporting from the West Bank. We have now 7 reporters across all of parts of the West Bank, and we're doing for each one of them is sending us 1 to 2 reports a day. So we started posting that on our Instagram channel, which has been in existence since last October. And so this week we had over 500,000 views on the videos on Instagram within these 7 days. And immediately yesterday, Instagram shuts down our page, permanently disables it, no warning, no cause, no issues, right? Because they got scared. How can you get 500,000 views within 1 week because of this content? So immediately they cut it. So I know that, and they shut down our threads also. So, this is going to happen to everybody that's doing work that is critical of the West. Therefore, as you said, logically, more platforms will rise from other places of the world, and the world will shift to that. And then the US and the West will be stuck in an echo chamber talking to themselves, and they're going to be more stupid and making worse decisions because they're not talking to anybody in the world in their isolationism. And that's a good thing, I think, a bright future for humanity to give up using anything from the West. When we talk about boycotting Israel, I say boycott anything that comes from the West if you can, if there's an alternative to it.
Well, here's the thing. In the West, when I look at it and I say the corporations own and run the government, the government is nothing. The government, members of the government are avatars. They're effigies, and the corporations put these effigies out to be burned. Here's Biden, here's go and attack them, beat on them, punch them, slap them around, burn them, because they represent us, but they're not us, right? So therefore, the people in power are perfectly happy with us going after Trump and Biden and whoever. So we don't go after the real people. When you wake up and realize that it is the corporations, now you go after the master, not the slave. And you start boycotting the corporations. You're really going after the people in power. Give me about 1 minute or so, and we got to go. Your last.
Yes, and we already see the effects of these boycotts. Look at what happened to Starbucks, what happened to McDonald's, what happened to other huge corporations that supported the genocide. And all peoples in the world should take lead, look at the lead that the Palestinians and their supporters have made, and follow suit. Buy from China, buy from Africa, buy from Asia, buy from Latin America, buy local, buy small. Don't go for the big corporations. Even if you're in the US and you want to buy American products, do not buy from the big corporations that have control over your government. Try to raise a new elite that is conscious and is connected to its people.
Thank you very much. Don't forget, everybody, go to freepalestine.video, freepalestine.video. That is Laith's site. Make sure you donate, and you can become a monthly donator, whatever the hell, contributor. Also, share it on all your social media platforms, and make sure when you put the post up that you put a note for people how critical it is that people continue to support it financially as the empire tries to shut down all alternative voices. Thanks a lot, everybody. Share this on all your social media platforms. I'll try to get it uploaded to Rumble soon. As I said, I heard Max Blumenthal yesterday say he was having some problems. I suspect that there are entities out there that are trying to throw a monkey wrench into any of the into this discussion. I think it is related to this attack on RT and Africa Stream and everybody else, and they're trying to do everything they can to disrupt them. But we got around them today. We may have lost 15 minutes, but we made it happen. Thanks a lot, Laith. I'll talk to you soon.